The air over Lydia was thick with the scent of blood and fire. Once, the great city of Sardis had been a beacon of wealth and power, its golden streets shining under the sun, its markets filled with silk and spices from the ends of the earth. But now, it burned. King Croesus, a man whose name had once been synonymous with boundless riches, stood atop the walls of his city, watching his empire collapse around him. His robes, once woven with the finest purple dyes of Tyre, were torn and dirted with the filth of war. His once proud eyes, as golden as the coins that bore his name, were now hollow, filled only with disbelief. He had trusted the oracle. The words still rang in his ears. If you cross the Halys River, you will destroy a great empire. Asterisk. He had taken it as a promise of victory. He had led his armies against Cyrus the Great, believing himself the favored son of fate. But now, as Persian banners rose above the smoking ruins of his city, he understood. The empire that had been destroyed was his own. The battle had begun with the clashing of bronze, the thundering of hooves, and the war cries of Lydian warriors charging into the fray. Croesus had commanded his famed cavalry, their golden armor glinting like the sun itself. They had surged forward with the force of a tidal wave, their spears aimed at the heart of the Persian lines. But Cyrus, ever the cunning tactician, had known the weaknesses of his foe. Against the mighty Lydian cavalry, he had sent forth an unexpected force, camels they're sent foreign and terrifying to the warhorses of Croesus. The mighty steeds, unaccustomed to such beasts, had reared and bucked, throwing their riders into chaos. The Lydians faltered. The Persians, seeing their moment, struck. Wave after wave of Cyrus's hardened warriors descended upon the disoriented Lydian ranks, their scimitars gleaming, their war cries shaking the heavens. The once proud soldiers of Sardis fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, undone by the very prophecy their king had misunderstood. As the enemy breached the walls, Croesus ordered a desperate last stand. The palace guard, their shields locked in an unbreakable formation, made their final defense before the grand temple of Apollo, as if the god himself might intervene. But the god was silent. And so, Croesus fell, not by the sword, but by fate itself. If ever there was a man whose name became a curse upon his lips, it was Pyrrhus of Epirus. He had dreamed of being another Alexander, of carving his name into the bones of history. But history had other plans. The battlefield at Asculum was a hellscape of broken bodies and shattered shields. Smoke curled from the charred remains of siege engines, and the cries of the dying filled the air like a mournful hymn. The rivers ran red with blood, Greek and Roman alike. Pyrrhus sat astride his warhorse, a beast as black as night, its armor glistening with sweat and gore. His face, chiseled and regal, was shadowed by the weight of exhaustion. His emerald eyes, once alight with ambition, flickered with something dangerously close to despair. His armor, a masterpiece of Hellenistic craftsmanship, bore deep scars where Roman swords had struck, and his helmet, ornamented with the fearsome crest of a white stallion, was cracked along the brow. The Romans had fought like madmen, their discipline unwavering, their legions unyielding. Pyrrhus had thrown everything he had against them, his finest war elephants, his most elite hoplites, his cunning Thessalian cavalry. Time and again, the Romans had fallen back, bloodied but never broken. And then, when victory was finally within his grasp, he realized the cost. His best generals lay dead, their bodies trampled into the earth. His war elephants, once a symbol of his unstoppable force, were now lifeless hulks, their massive forms riddled with javelins. His ranks, though victorious, were so diminished that another such triumph would mean ruin. As he surveyed the field of his so-called victory, he muttered the words that would echo through history. Another such victory, and I am undone. Asterisk. He had won the battle. But Rome was still standing. And Pyrrhus, brilliant, ambitious, doomed Pyrrhus, had lost the war. No prophecy had ever outright declared Alexander's doom, but he, more than any man, should have known that the gods do not grant unchecked ambition without a price. The night before his death, he lay feverish in the grand halls of Babylon, the city he had claimed as the heart of his empire. His body, once sculpted by war and divine favor, was now frail, racked by an illness that no physician could name, no sacrifice could cure. His commanders, the titans of his army, stood in silence, their eyes filled with a terror they dared not voice. For how could Alexander, the invincible, the son of Zeus himself, be dying? Through parched lips, he whispered his final words. When asked to whom he would leave his empire, he managed only a single phrase. To the strongest. Asterisk. Chaos followed. The empire he had built with fire and steel collapsed into a war of succession, torn apart by the very men he had once called his brothers. Perhaps this had always been his fate. Perhaps the greatest conqueror the world had ever known had never truly been the master of his own destiny. Perhaps, in the end, even Alexander had been but a pawn in the hands of the gods. The Oracle of Delphi had long since fallen silent. Her prophecies, once the guiding force of kings and empires, had faded into legend. Yet, in the winds that howled through the ruins of her temple, in the echoes of history's greatest tragedies, one could still hear her voice. Fate, it whispered, is not to be bargained with. It is not to be defied. And those who seek to know their future should beware. For in seeking their destiny, they may only hasten their doom.